Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. This is my VR to the tag Good Mood Decks. Good Mood Decks was started by Maureen over at the Waves of Your Soul, and it's a tag that's all about decks that put us in a good mood, decks that just make us happy. What could be better than that? So I have a handful of decks here that for me are good mood decks. I'm excited to share them. I've been enjoying other folks' VRs. And I have a mix of decks here, some tarot, some oracle, and I will timestamp them below. And for each one, I'll talk a little bit about why, for me, it is a good mood deck. And so the first one is going to probably, when you see it, be fairly self-explanatory why it's a good mood deck. A couple of these I think are pretty obvious, at least in my collection. To me, they're obvious. The first good mood deck is Way of the Panda Tarot by Kimberly M. Zahn. And I really like this deck. It's maybe different than the usual style of deck that I would go for. I wouldn't necessarily say that cute and cuddly is, my go-to tarot deck style, but I backed this deck on Kickstarter and I really enjoy it. This deck puts me in a good mood, without a doubt. I love the bright colors of this deck. That's the back. And I love the playful panda personalities of this deck. And I really love Kimberly's voice in the guidebook. I've mentioned it before on this channel. The big book of pandas that comes separately from this deck is worth every penny because you get to learn the names of all of these pandas and the kind of backstory of why they're doing what they're doing in the picture in the card. So if I want a deck to put me in a good mood, I will pull out the guidebook for this as well. Maybe pick a few cards and just read a bit about what those pandas are doing. And I cannot help but smile when I read this guidebook. I think Kimberly's a great writer and has really created something special that, how could this not put you in a good mood? Of course this panda puts you in a good mood. It puts me in a good mood. So this was the first deck that I thought of for this tag. The Way of the Panda Tarot by Kimberly Zahn. Definitely a good mood deck. The next good mood deck that I have is another tarot deck. I've shared this deck before. One of the cards is stuck in the box. There we go. This is the Neo Tarot by Jericho Mandibur. It is a mass market deck. It's a very Smith-Waite deck. And this deck puts me in a good mood as well. When I saw this deck, I liked the color palette, and I also really liked that the body shapes are pretty diverse. That makes me happy to see. It's missing in too many decks. But this deck is also a good mood deck because it is self-care themed. So for the guidebook, there's a self-care activity for every card. And I've done a review of this deck and book before. And I think that the creator did a really, really good job with something as personal as self-care, coming up with suggestions that feel approachable, feel accessible, feel like they're not going to alienate a portion of the readership who perhaps has different, needs in a different life than the writer. Like, not at all. It's really, really well done. And so this deck gives me inspiration to put me in a better mood. And the guidebook is just overall really kind of supportive in tone, in a way that I appreciate. It's well written. So using this deck makes me happy. It doesn't have the bright color palette of Way of the Panda, but it's still colorful as well, which I also like. Puts me in a good mood. So That's the Neo Tarot by Jericho Mandibur, another good mood deck for me. Next up, oh, my ribbon is shedding. The next good mood deck that I chose, and this is, a personal one, I think they all are, I guess, is Thea's Tarot by Ruth West. This deck doesn't necessarily perhaps scream good mood deck in the extent of obviousness as something like The Way of the Panda, but this deck feels like home to me. It feels like, magical queer ancestors to me. And it just makes me happy. For a long while, this would be a deck that I would use nearly exclusively when I got it. I just fell in love with this deck. This Nine of Pentacles is like good mood in an image to me. A book, a cat on the end of the couch. My cat never stays on the end of the couch. My cat is very bad at sitting beside. He's really good at sitting on me or my book or whatever. But this is just a really loving feeling deck to me. It puts me in a good mood, and it's so familiar to me now that, I've used it as much as I have. I often will do my reading for myself on my birthday with this deck. Something about this one puts me in such a good mood. Like this like happy queer picnic. Happy queer picnic puts me in a good mood for sure. Looks like there's a couple of wine glasses in there too. I love this deck. It makes me happy. Good mood deck. I'm in a better mood now that I'm looking at it right now. And that's Thea's Tarot by Ruth West. Now I have one more tarot deck and then I have a few oracle decks. This is another one that's probably a fairly obvious, I would say. And that's the Considerate Cat Tarot by Madeleine Bélanger. This is a good mood deck to me. And, part of that is inevitably, I'm just going to take the extra card out there. Part of that is, of course, that the cats are just really cute. And how could, this beautiful smiling cat with a wine glass not put you in a good mood? They're beautiful. But this deck also puts me in a good mood because it features rescue cats. And Madeleine fosters cats, and on her social media she'll share, the developments of cats that she's fostering at any given time. And I think that takes such a special human. I would just want to adopt every single one. And I love seeing these cats celebrated. And the extra guidebook is good. There's an extra hardcover guidebook you can get separately. And I would say that actually that extra guidebook is like not my favorite as a tarot guidebook, but it includes kind of backstories and adoption stories of the different rescue cats. And that made that book worth it to me. I really enjoy and appreciate it. And certainly a cat cuddle puts me in a good mood. There's a smaller version of Daryl, I think. And this one could be Bandit. Bandit has more black than that, but Bandit likes to bird call out the window, so this cat watching the birds there does remind me of that as well. So I'm not one for really like anthropomorphized animal decks, but like cat in a costume. Perfect. Can't not be in a good mood with a cat in a crown. So that's a good mood deck for me for sure. The Considerate Cat Tarot. Now I've got a couple of non-tarot decks, 2 Oracle and a Lenormand, actually. So I've pulled out Animal Allies 2 by Jessica Swift as a good mood deck. I have Animal Allies 1 and 2, and I feel the same about both of them, so I just grabbed, the one that was at the front of the shelf to show you. And I wouldn't necessarily say that every animal deck is automatically a good mood deck, though obviously I love animals. This is the back. But these decks are a good mood deck for me. They're really brightly colored. The portraits feel really joyful. The animals feel celebrated to me. I don't really use, there is a little pamphlet that comes with it with suggested kind of meanings and associations. I don't really use it, so I can't really say whether that is a good mood thing or not. But I am put in a good mood by bright colors and also animals. So these decks do that for me. And there isn't any, obviously, like any messages on the card. There isn't any keyword on the card. So it can be read based on my own associations, which also puts me in a good mood. My mother tells me that when I was a kid, my favorite animal was polar bear. Llama. I also really like the mix of animals in these decks. Like there's some that are definitely more domesticated. There's some that are certainly not. And there's a fairly wide geographical distribution of the animals, which is also great. And this just, I don't know, like the border design feels, playful, and you can kind of tell when you look at it that it's colored in. Like it's not perfect, like it's computerized. Like it looks like somebody colored this in with a pencil crayon, which is probably exactly the case. And I enjoy that about it. Like it feels, I don't want to say it feels childlike, like the art is great. But it feels like that childlike sense of wonder towards these animals. And I enjoy that. And it puts me in a good mood. So that's Animal Allies 2. Animal Allies and Animal Allies 2, for folks who haven't seen these before, they're great indie decks. And really, like, they are like one big deck. You can shuffle them together. The backs are the same. It's just the selection of animals is obviously completely different. So I like both decks equally. And both are good mood decks. I just didn't want to be repetitive and show you both. The next one I have is a Lenormand deck. The only Lenormand on the list. And I'm not a huge Lenormand, reader. I'm not a Lenormand expert by any stretch. I have a very few Lenormand decks. I dabble in Lenormand. I've read a few books, but it's not my go-to system. But Queer Lenormand puts me in a good mood. It puts me in a good mood because it's a queer accessible Lenormand deck, which means I'm at least not in a pissed off mood when I take this deck out. I don't have to think about that. But also it's really bright. It has a ton of cards. It has drag queen and drag king cards. It has man, woman, and person cards and multiple child cards. And when you lay it out in a spread, it's just really bright. And it feels like, really created from just a place of love for our community and wanting us to have something that would be reflective of us. And this deck makes me happy. Just looking at these cards makes me happy. When you I'm going to try not to make a mess here. When you fan it out, it's so colorful and rainbow. And I am really into that. A good deck for Pride Month, which is not happening right now, but you know, I wear my Zenni Optical Pride collection glasses year round. Why not? You know, I love this. I love this. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful deck that is full of joy. And I think that this deck, being full of joy, makes me full of joy, and that's why Queer Lenormand is a good mood deck for me. Last but not least, I would put on my good mood decks collection, I guess, VR, the Saltwater reading cards by Laura Bowen. Folks who are subscribed to my channel probably know already that I love this deck. I have Laura Bowen's Dreamtime reading cards as well, but this is the one that I got first. This is the one that I bonded with first. You know, and this is the one that I love. And as a good mood deck, the beachy colors make me happy. Again, it's, you know, it's a lot of bright colors. It feels exuberant, and I love that about it. I wouldn't say that it's like an affirmation oracle at all. The keywords feel quite balanced to me, actually. But it's a deck that I really love. The guidebook, again, which is quite substantial. There's a lot for each card. You get like a full image and quite a bit of text. And Laura's a great author, I think. And for a card of the day, to spend some time to read the guidebook as well, and then have this out. If I do a card of the day, I'll put it in like a card holder so it's standing up on my table. This is a good mood deck for me. There are definitely some messages that are and can be challenging, but for me that's not that doesn't preclude a deck being a good mood deck, right? Like a good mood deck doesn't need to be an affirmation deck to me, not at all. But the bright colors, and I think of, you know, the beach when I see this this deck, and I've taken this deck on vacation. This one is a special one to me and is a good mood deck. So that is the Saltwater reading cards, the last of my good mood decks. Thank you to Maureen for starting the tag, and thank you for watching my very, very late VR. I hope everyone is well. I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.